Hey guys, welcome back to Heart of the Hero, Tools for Successful Minds. Today we're going to be covering some topics that are real close to my heart, and I'm going to enjoy talking about a little bit. What are we getting into today, Greg?
Motivation. We're getting into motivation today. How to motivate yourself, and there happens to be a useful, powerful, and interesting secret way that you can kind of flip the switch and get yourself going.
Secrets.
No, secrets are always fun. So, and if you're watching now, you might have maybe you're not as motivated as you want to be, right? Maybe you're like, oh, I gotta do the thing. Like I gotta go to the place. I gotta go write the report, and you don't want to do it. Like you don't want to do it, right? We've all been in that situation where like we've got stuff overloading us, right? It's all the stuff that we got to do, like a dump truck on our heads of just stuff we haven't finished, right? Well, how do you generate the right kind of motivation to do it? Well, in your case, you go to the YouTube and or your podcast, your whatever your links that you're choosing to listen or hear this from, right? And you know what you do? You get a gold mine of information. So today we're going to talk to you about a little bit of useful ways. So if maybe you wanted to open us up, Dan, could you talk to the portion of the audience that they're here because they have something that they need to get done, but they can't generate the motivation? How would you open that up?
Well, I mean, that's a tough spot to be in. It's especially when you're in a pressing time where you need to get things accomplished, you need to get stuff done. Finding motivation is something that is is a skill that's kind of built. It's not necessarily something that just always is snap your fingers right there when you need it. Especially when you're not necessarily used to using having a lot of motivation in any area in your life, so you're kind of not practiced in it. It's hard to call on it when you're not used to calling on it, and so I think that people can often know all the steps to getting the things done that they need to get done, and can often find it just kind of intimidating and not sure how to get started, and a little stuck in their in their feet, now like, where do I do next? Because they're not really got that push. They don't really have that drive, that ability to focus on, what you need to focus on to kind of get through that, that resistance that you can get from the, daunting nature of all the things that we have to get accomplished sometimes.
Yeah. And if you're percolated, right, if you're ready, I'm going to make a promise to you right now. I'm going to make a claim, and if you stick around to the end, you'll know why it gets backed up, or maybe you won't. But it's up to you. You can choose. You can choose to hang out. But if you do, by the end of this video, you're going to understand the number one way to create motivation in yourself that is lasting, that is powerful, that can be activated on call. Fairly consistent. May not be always consistent, but it's consistent enough that you can use it to get your goals done, to move in the direction that you want. And a lot of that comes down to the information that right? The things that you know about yourself, your own self-inquiry, sort of self-awareness. But there are techniques, right? There are techniques that that sometimes get overlooked, and maybe we'll get into those in a minute here. But at first, I kind of want to talk about some of my own motivation issues, struggle moments, right? It's like, and I remember, because I had a good chunk of my life, right, where I really was just going ham on learning, right, trying to get better at doing stuff, trying to pick up some new skills, trying to learn some information, right? And a lot of times, what would happen is I knew what I needed to do, right? Like I know what I needed to get done, and I would go to start doing it. But I wouldn't really, it would almost be like it's this chore. It's almost like that you got to do stuff, but it's almost like it's a chore because you don't have the drive to do it, right? Let's say that one of your friends calls you up today, right? Whoever it is, maybe you got friends or family or whatever. They call you up and say, hey, we're going to go to a water park, or hey, we're going to go to an amusement park, or hey, we're going to go to see this movie that you wanted, this concert, right? Immediately you get this burst, this energy, this motivation, like, oh my God, I want to do this for so long. Like, yeah, this is awesome. And you start thinking about all the reasons why you're going to love it. And, you can kind of imagine yourself there, and it's fun. It's this fun thing. Well, that doesn't always happen when you got to do something that's real boring, or you got to, go sweep your porch, or, you got to call someone who you didn't want to call, or you got to file a report, right? So what would you do? and maybe this is what the question that if you're listening, you're wondering, how could you like hack your brain, or kind of move yourself in the direction of really being able to generate that same kind of motivation for anything that you want, right? And so maybe you could speak to some of the obstacles that you're going to have right out the gate, having to deal with this, because it's a hard thing to get around to not have the motivation.
Well, I think to not just jump right into it, to talk a little bit first, maybe about the obstacle is going to be learning to control your thoughts, where your brain's at, where your awareness is at. A big one is going to be where is your emotional state. Where are you at there? Like, are you happy? Are you sad? Are you mad? Are you anxious? Are you depressed? What is it? What are you in that current moment? And that kind of self-awareness. Also, where's your, how's your physique? How's your body? Have you eaten? Is your blood sugar low? Are you slouching in kind of like, how's your posture? Is there any aches and pains in your body? These type of things seem kind of ancillary. What does this have to do with, getting motivation? Well, I think that when you look at some of the reasons why people lack the motivation, and for some of the listeners might agree, is because our attention is on so many different things other than what it needs to be on. Our thoughts are scattered across a bunch of different things, and a couple of the thoughts might be on the task in front of us, but there's other distracting kind of thoughts that keep getting played in our head about other things that we could be doing, want to be doing, what's going on here. And then, our emotional state, we don't honestly pay much attention to. Sometimes we think, well, it doesn't really matter how I feel, I got to work. Well, I mean, that's true, but your emotional state's something that has an effect on you, your thoughts, even like if you had a rough day doing something else, or you got in a fight with your spouse, like you that can affect your productivity and your efficiency, and your physiology. If you're not, staying healthy, feeding yourself, and staying active, you can kind of feel physical resistance to even just sitting down at a desk and trying to do work, because you just want to kind of be lazy and relax. And so I think those are some of the first, those are areas that I think we're going to cover on how to, it's almost like it's almost like the thing you look out for is also the cure. But in that, and we'll kind of get into that. But those are the obstacles that I think you're going to kind of go through in this hack that we're getting ready to teach you. It's not, this isn't self-created. This idea has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's used by people like Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn, and any motivational speaker knows about state. And so we're going to get into that a little bit, but I think some of the obstacles are mainly the ability to control your thoughts, be aware of your emotional state, and where, and having some balance and being healthy, physically.
Yeah. And the place you might be at right now, if you're having issues, or if you've had issues with motivation in the past, where you're not able to always generate that kind of creative energy output that you want, right? Maybe you want to. Maybe you want to go and, kind of be smiling and have that drive, right? Have that, have that energy. It's crisp, right? You wake up in the morning and you're like, all right, let's kick it. Like, let's do it. You don't always get that. You don't always get to plug into that, right? It's almost like there's a limit. There's some kind of a limiter that's keeping you from accessing that, right? You could even go watch a motivational video, right? And you're not feeling it. You're not really taking it in, and it doesn't really hit you for some reason where you want it to, right? And so kind of want to talk a little bit about that, but first, I think it's important to cover your energy, right? And I don't mean like esoteric. I mean your literal energy in your body, like what you're thinking, like whether or not you're being quiet and tired, and that. I think you're one of the biggest obstacles right out the gate, and I mean by right out the gate, I mean right now. If you're watching this video, right, or you're listening to this, on audio maybe, or however you're consuming this content right now, for you clearly have something that you want to be motivated for, right? You clearly have something you want to be motivated towards. You want to move towards something, but most likely, and you might identify with this, right? Maybe you could picture how this works in your own life, because it's probably somewhat relevant to where you're at. You're probably in a place where your energy is very low, right? Where you're very tired right now, or you're not sure. You're in this place of kind of this weird doubt where you don't know how you're going to be able to create the energy that you need to get out of it, right? To get moving forward, to get the project done, to talk to the person. Because a lot of times when you don't have motivation, it's just a shorthand for, I don't have the energy to do this, right? You know, you're feeling slow, you talk slower, you're a little more quiet, right? You know, you might look at the floor a little bit. You're not, things are very down, right? And so if you're watching now and you resonate with that, right? If you resonate with that, the first thing that we need to tackle is your energy, right? Maybe you start to breathe a little quicker. Maybe, you know, you look into the camera a little bit harder, but whatever that means for you, right? You have to try to move out of that low energy state just enough so that you can receive what we're saying. Because these are things, we're going to give you some tips and reasons and ways that you can kind of maneuver around this. But if you're not paying attention, if you're not listening to them, they're not going to stick, right? And so it would almost be like, you know, we're trying to give you gold, or we're trying to wake you up, but you're not awake, you're asleep, right? So right now, maybe you could tune your attention. And you probably have some more tips on this than I do. You're a little bit better with state. What are some ways that someone could tune their attention to this video to give them that energy just long enough to last all the way through, to get the information, to get the tips, to get the, you know, the gems?
Well, I mean, just allow yourself to imagine the possibilities of being able to summon the motivation that you need in every instant of that you need it. I mean, like, what energy does that give you? Because I remember when I learned that that was possible, and I remember the first time that I did it and succeeded at doing it, because it is a skill that it takes practice and actual full commitment to it. But like, I mean, really just think about how you could move through projects, how you could move through tasks. Think about how much easier it would be to get yourself through the day-to-day grind if you had a tool like this that could just, that you follow just simple steps that could just turn this energy up in you and turn this motivation and get you focused and ready to tackle projects. I mean, you know, if it's one of those things that you kind of just, you know, tune in, because this is not, I'm not kidding about this. We're not joking about this. We won't put this out here if it wasn't legitimately helpful for you. That's our whole point, is making sure that we're helping as many viewers and listeners as we can. And it's difficult only if you make it, because the tasks are actually relatively simple. And it's just a question of if you are willing to open up to new practices to get yourself the right motivation that you need.
You know, and it really all is about getting that motivation on your own, right? Getting that motivation yourself. So, and I have a question for you. You know, maybe you could spread out on this a little quicker than me, or in a way that the audiences might connect with it, or someone listening now, right, might kind of resonate with it. What would you say? Because there are people, and I know if you're listening to this and you connect with this and you want motivation and you need motivation and you're feeling that kind of, you know, low energy, low drive, you're not sure how to kind of make that happen, right? You're ready. But what about someone who might be in that place, right? And maybe it's you, maybe it's you who are watching right now. What would you say to someone to open up even more doors, right? Even more levels of awareness to their own lack of motivation? Because we think, right, the tendency is to think, you know, I don't have motivation, therefore the only thing that's really stopping me, right, the only thing that motivation really affects is that I can't get done with this project, or I can't get moved towards this target. But I feel like there are more possibilities that motivation's actually touching, right? Your lack of motivation is actually affecting a lot more than just the one thing that you're trying to get done, or the one thing that you're trying to do. So maybe you could illuminate and open up some of those doors to the other areas that the lack of motivation is actually really affecting right now.
Well, I mean, how much effort do you feel like you need to give into, you know, your marriage? You know, if you're married, how much effort do you need to give into the school and classes that you're in? You know, how much effort do you have to get at your job if you're trying to get promoted? You know, what is it that's keeping you, you know, what amount of motivation? I remember there's this guy that no, it was you. That's right. One day, Greg Goodwin told me one time, you know, he said, you know, Dan, because I was kind of slacking at work, you know, I knew it, and it didn't really bother me at the time. I was just like, whatever, I don't care about this job, you know, whatever, it's stupid, and had all these perspectives about it. And he brought this up to me. He said, you know, well, Dan, you know, you want to get motivation, and you complain about not being able to get the stuff done that you want to get done, but like you're spending your entire day at work slacking off, you're not really putting 100% in, and then you're coming home and then just trying to like turn on the 100% jets. When you've been slacking off all day, you're kind of in that mode of, you know, I don't really want to do anything, whatever, I'll just do what's required and just enough to get by, you know, and that's not a good place to be. You're in any area of your life, whether it be a relationship, if you're just doing what you need to do to get by, and you're not doing things that you know that could make your life or relationship or career or, you know, future better or improved, because of a lack of motivation, it's like there's just so many things that you're missing out on. There's so many opportunities that aren't available to you because you just won't do the things required. You know, you think your relationship's good now. Well, what if you actually applied that extra effort that you don't have the motivation to apply? How much more happy could she be? How much more happy could she make you if she was that happier? You know what I mean? How much more likely would you be to get a promotion if you were giving that extra mile compared to everybody else around you, you know, and showing that you care and actually having that motivation that you don't normally have? I mean, you know, there's benefits in your life that are restricted to you if you don't have the motivation to actually step up and take advantage of them, you know?
Well, I think there's entire areas of life that are restricted to you. I mean, there are, absolutely, you're right, there are benefits, but it's almost like when you're not motivated, right? When you don't have access to that fire, right? When you don't have access to that drive, right? It's almost like you're restricted to certain areas of life. And how I mean that is when you said, you know, when you're at work and whatnot, right? Imagine if you were that person, right, who was able to really output at the highest levels everywhere they were, right? You know, be it your friends, your family, your marriage, your business, your finance, you know, your home life, your video games, your television. You were outputting the highest levels of your own energy, the highest levels of your own motivation. You were doing your best work, your best self at all times in all areas of your life, or at least to the highest degree that you could, right? What would be different? Like, how would the world change for you? How would you change? Like, would there be different? Honestly, I think one of the biggest parts of motivation that maybe doesn't even get talked about that much, and it kind of bothers me because it's so key. Once you're able to really access this level of motivation and use it on call, not only does it affect you, it very much doesn't just affect you. Everyone you interact with sees you differently. They see you in a better light. They start to look at you and they're like, man, like this, what happened to them? Like they are on fire. Something's changed, right? Something's different. And it gives you this kind of sense of, you know, you can kind of puff up your chest and feel a little bit better about your own life because you're raising your status as a person, right? You're raising the way that other people see you because you're actually putting out more. You're actually having better conversations. You're spreading more energy, right? And so I think there's a lot of even more detailed hidden benefits that really, it's almost like they get missed out on because we just think, yeah, motivation, you know, whack a stick at it and you can get this done. It's like, no. This goes way deeper than that. It actually covers way more area than that.
You know, and I think you know, I think one area I want to cover hard on is thoughts, you know, is kind of one, if I were to, you know, talk about the obstacles there, like, is that I think a lot of times when you're in a position where you need motivation, your thoughts start to wander to unproductive, self-doubting, self-destructive, lazy kind of areas where, you know, you're sitting down in front of you wanting motivation, but you're letting your mind wander to, you know, Netflix and what's next on Game of Thrones, and you know, you're in this kind of zone where you don't actually have control over what your thoughts are doing. You're just kind of like letting them wander and letting your mind wander. And you do have control over that. If you sat down and had conscious focus and you wanted to stare at your hand for 2 minutes, you could do it. Like, you have attention. You can put your hand and focus on that and focus your mind on one task, focus on what you're doing in front of you, you know, because our thoughts start to wander and especially to kind of unhelpful places. And I think that's kind of an area that you have to watch for, and that you even have to start to adapt to and start getting your mind to better places, you know, bringing your mind to a positive place, thinking about things that actually give you energy, thinking about things that actually, you know, that you know, get you up in the morning, that inspire you, that fill you with passion and ambition, you know, the things that you love doing, that, you know, the type of lifestyle you want to live, the type of job you want to have, you know, these type of thoughts, you know, just let your mind wander on those, because those will get you motivated. You know what I mean? Those will, at some point, you'll be sitting there wandering, thinking about that, and you'll realize, oh yeah, I got to do the work, and you'll kick in, because that you have this newfound kind of energy in that. But the opposite kind of comes when you let your mind wander, and you let your mind wander to bad areas like that can, you know, inflict like self-doubt and laziness and procrastinating tendencies, you know. So you have to kind of be in control of your thoughts in these times that you need motivation, because if you're not, you know, it's damaging, but if you are, it's very helpful.
What would you say? What would you say? Because I resonate with that strongly. I remember a lot of times for me when I would try and motivate, my mind would go all over the, all over the place, right? Just negative thinking, and I can't. Well, this isn't working, and I don't like this person's voice, or they don't sound right, or this doesn't look right, and all these just unhelpful things that aren't helping me to be motivated. So what would you say to someone? Because I know there's someone who, and maybe you're listening right now, and you're trying to focus. You're trying to really focus in on this, right? But you keep getting, pulled off, your phone or a person, or you're thinking, like, whoa, what's happening here? Or, where's this going? And you just keep going. You're leaving, right? Your attention is diffused, right? You're going all over the place. What would you say to someone who might be having issues with some negative thinking right now, or not really being able to take in this message all the way through? How is there something that you could tell them that would help them to realize the way to just hold on to that space of being more attentive, just for this, so they can feel better?
I think a lot of times is holding in mind. Like I try to pay attention to, I really try to focus in on the words that I'm reading or the words that I'm hearing, the sound of their voice, and only try to pick up on details about the things that they're saying. Only try, like, if a thought comes to your head that you realize you're thinking about that's not related, just like, okay, like I'll be aware of it, and then come back, and just try to focus back in and listen to what we're saying, and listen to what the book's saying, and listen to what your teacher's saying, and listen to what, pay attention to what's going on around you, and because if you're not attentive, you're not taking in as much as you can or should be. So like, it's really important to just try to, you don't want to necessarily try to push everything else out, because that can be really noisy. But the more you try to focus in and only hear, this podcast or the book you're reading, or you're only focusing on one avenue, and you just try to hyper focus. And anytime you branch, it's okay if you fall off. You're gonna wander a little bit. Just be aware of it, check it, and bring it back in, and be like, all right, I'm here again. I'm focusing in. Just kind of, it's this back and forth at first. If you're not good at it, it's just kind of like, I'm thinking about this. Oh wait, I got to get back to work. I'm working, and then but I want to be thinking about this. And oh wait, right, I got to be working. I'm working, and it'll be like that sometimes. But that's, if that's what you have to do to train your mind to focus, then that's what you have to do, but that gains control over what you're allowing your mind to think about. Pushing out thoughts is more of a meditative type of process, whereas just hyper focusing is bringing one thing into your mind and trying to use all of your mind to focus on just that, and only allowing the branches off and side thoughts to be things that are related to what you're actually doing in front of you at that moment.
No, that's perfect. I think that might have clicked that, for whoever was maybe kind of wobbling, right? I think it's safe to assume that they're ready, right? I think it's safe to assume that they're on the edge of their
seat. I've already kind of warmed them up a little bit,
right? It's like if you didn't have motivation at the start of this video, at least you can see now where maybe there's a path for you to get it, or it's kind of bubbling, and you may not have had that kind of trigger kind of pulled yet. So I do want to slide right into something real quick, which could help them to understand a term that you used that we were going to end up using later. Is there a way that you would define, for maybe someone who's attentive and listening now, emotional state? Because I don't know that everyone's familiar with the term emotional state. What do you mean when you say your emotional state? Like, what does that mean to a person?
Well, I'll go back to the bad day at work reference. Like, let's say you got to work and you were late clocking in, and your manager yells at you. You get to work and it's a rough day. You're busy all day. People seem to be frustrated and snippy, and you're just in this kind of like, you just get in this kind of frustrated mood of just like, oh, people are annoying today. I don't talk to anybody. I don't do anything. This is just, get away from me, leave me alone. And I think it'd be, any listener could probably empathize with kind of carrying home their baggage from work into their home life, or even vice versa, carrying their home life into their work life. It's this kind of emotional state that we get into, whether, say you went home, and say it's the reverse. Say you're at home with your spouse, or your kids, or, your roommates, and you get in a fight, and you get an argument, and there's yelling, and everybody gets angry, and people go to bed angry, and you wake up the next day, and then you go to work, and you're still just kind of frustrated because nothing really got settled, and you're being short with people and snippy, and your boss had to check your attitude one time because you're just being too rude to people, and so you've kind of carried this emotional state into your day instead of just like dealing with it and letting it go. You kind of carried this emotional state that you're in. And like I said earlier, it's one of the ones that people aren't really as more consciously aware of. But the emotions that you were most recently feeling are going to kind of determine a lot about your physiology. When you have emotions, they release certain chemicals and hormones in your brain, and in your body. So when you're happy, you get a lot of endorphins and, dopamine. And so it's like so it's kind of a reaction, so say, but if you're in a, more, anxious and, tense state, you got a lot of adrenaline and probably still a little bit of dopamine, but it's not feeling great because of the adrenaline and oxytocin and all this stuff that's just got you kind of primed up and going. It's this emotional state because you've triggered it, and or your day has triggered it. You've gotten mad at people multiple times, or people have gotten mad at you, or you've gotten yelled at, or you got in trouble, or whatever it is. You failed a test, you missed a project deadline, whatever it is, you're kind of carrying that on you. And people aren't quite as aware as that sometimes. And it's not something that's unbeatable. It's not something that's you can change that through controlling your thoughts. And that's kind of partly what I was talking about, picking things that make you excited and happy earlier, was that's why thoughts are important, because when you're in kind of this moment, or you're needing motivation, and maybe you've started to understand how you're supposed to focus your mind a little bit based on what we've been talking about. And when you kind of get that control, you kind of are able to focus a little bit on more positive things, and you kind of grasp that concept, right? That it's supposed to, but I want to, the emotional state that kind of can happen to this is you want to pick things that actually kind of trigger emotions in you, like happiness and joy and excitement and passion and ambition. These are the ones that you're trying to dig for. And you want to pick thoughts that actually are proccing those emotions in you, because that can change your emotional state. That gets you into okay, I'm feeling good now. I'm ready. I'm going. I'll pump some music on. I'll start telling myself things that get me all jacked up, and I'm looking in the mirror. I'm punching the air, get my blood flowing and stuff. But because your thoughts kind of have according to cognitive behavioral therapy, the theory is it goes event, thoughts, emotion, behavior change. And so the idea is that your thoughts are kind of are beforehand of your emotions, or in control almost of your emotions. So if you can, focus your thoughts on things that excite you and get you happy and motivated and passionate and about things you love, like that kind of procs this emotional state in you that will actually be a little bit more productive. And that's like kind of that's really more what emotional state is.
No, it's a great definition. And when you mentioned music and sort of raising your own emotional state, changing it and whatnot, that kind of made me think about some of the struggles that I've had myself, and some of maybe the struggles that someone hearing this would have, which would be this idea, and this is what you're here for. It's the secret, right? It's the one thing that you can do. It's the single way for you to click motivation, right? And he defined emotional state really well, right? If you were listening and you heard that, like, you can kind of reference that with a lot of your own experience, right? Things that you've done, things that you felt, maybe you've been broken up with before and you've carried that with you for a while. Like those kinds of things, they actually are changing your emotional state. They're changing the way that you're interacting with the world, but on an even deeper level, right? Without the label of the state itself, is your feeling, right? It's just the feeling. It's just the feeling itself, right? And that's what I kind of want to get into, because if you've listened this far, you want the meat, right? You want to know like how you would start to get this, kind of tool, this toolkit, this motivational secret. And it all starts, I think, with your feeling, right? It all starts with what you're feeling, how you kind of manipulate and change it. And I don't mean feeling as in empathy. I mean what you're feeling in your body, in your mind, and sort of the way that you're seeing the world, right? Because you can imagine someone who goes to a store, right? Or someone who goes to a concert. A concert's a great example, right? You're in this concert and you're hearing all kinds of music, right? It could be whatever kind of music, your favorite music. You could imagine you're hearing it right now. People are surrounding you. You could smell it. It's all there. Well, you could be at this event and you could be in a negative state. Maybe someone called you right before you went in and they said something horrible news to you, right? It just really shifted, or you checked your bank and for some reason you'd lost, $3,000-4,000. You didn't know why, whatever the reason, right? It could be a whole bunch of different reasons. But as you're going into this concert, right, you're walking into this concert and your emotional state, your feeling shifts and it's bad and it's negative and you're, I'm so angry, I'm so upset, I'm so sad, I'm so unhappy with this situation. Well, those feelings, they're actually changing the entire way you interact with the concert, right? You could imagine, picture another person, someone else who didn't have this situation happen to them, right? They'd be enjoying themselves, clapping and laughing and dancing and nodding and nudging people and, whatever it is that you do, right? And you, because your feeling is off, your emotional state is not good, you're not able to even enjoy the concert itself, right? And that's a micro example, right? And so what I mean to say is that your feelings, they're kind of at the bottom of your experience. And if you can learn how to play with those, if you can learn how to move them around, you can actually change your own level of motivation. And that's kind of what I want to get into, a whole bunch of the different ways, the different toolkits that you could use maybe to start to notice and adjust those on your own.
Well, and I think that's kind of what I had started in on was the controlling of your thoughts. That really, if this is something that you want to use, this state change is something that you actually want to try to use in your own life every day. It's really just in my eyes a 3-step thing. It really is. Actually, no, I'm going to say 4 steps, because the first step is choosing to do it. Being in a negative state, sometimes you just kind of like want to, you ever get that feeling where like somebody's trying to cheer you up and you just like don't want to be cheered up for some reason, like, that kind of resistance to feeling good. I think often people can feel that. And so choosing is kind of the first step here. But the second step is controlling your thoughts, identifying thoughts that are associated with your passions, the things that you love, the things that get you excited and proc emotion in you. And that's step number 2, because the emotional state that you're in is something you have to be fully aware of. Where are you actually at? Are you still thinking or dwelling on old emotional things? Are you actually still held to those things and tied to them? Like, or is it affecting, like, honestly, sometimes, I ask people how they're doing and I can't see them, and I can tell in their voice they're a little bit down. And I'm saying, well, how are you doing? They're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm like, right. Okay. Well, how's your posture right now? And they're just like, what do you mean? I'm just like, are you slouching? They're like, yes. I'm like, are you leaning on one of your elbows? They're like, yes. I'm like, how's your facial expression? They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, are you frowning? And they're like, yes. It's like, well, okay. Like, okay, like you're reflecting the emotion that you are feeling. So you need to step 1, choose to control your thoughts so that you can proc emotions in you that are like uplifting, ambitious, happy, excited emotions. And so because the step 3 is your physiology, and part of that gets taken care of as long as you've done step 1 and step 2 with commitment, because part of this is actually committing to this. It's going to feel hokey. It's going to feel fake, even like when you do it. I remember when I first practiced this, it was like, this is stupid. I don't actually feel this, but it's like, no, but you go through the process and that's the point, is that you don't, and you're trying to, because you already know you don't feel that way. You're trying to get there. So it's like, it's going to feel kind of, strange at first, but if you actually are able to control your thoughts, get them focused on somewhere that'll proc some emotion in you, that'll release, like you can get yourself into this excited kind of state where your body, you'll start to release endorphins and dopamine, kind of these feel-good chemicals in you, right? And step number 3 is people's physiology. Beyond what's going to happen as long as you've done step 1 and 2 correctly, like 3 is actually like get up, move around, like punch, do some air punches, you know what I mean? Do some air guitar, do some jumping jacks, do some push-ups, go for a little bit of a jog and get yourself actually your blood pumping, because that in itself also releases these feel-good chemicals. Get your body loose, everything's moving around, your blood's pumping, you feel good. And so if you do all of these things with commitment and actually control, are able to find thoughts that can really, really push you in a good emotional direction, and actually be aware of that emotional state, knowing that, yeah, that's working. I'm getting really good. That's getting me all excited. That's getting me feeling happy. Yeah, this is good. I like this. And then actually like controlling your physiology. It's a little bit of overkill, like doing the push-ups. But it's just like getting yourself into a state, because if one of the things that people don't understand about people's physiology, and I mentioned this earlier a little bit, was that when you're in an emotion, you have a physiological response. Your body does, your face, your arms, your hands, your knees, the chemical balance in your body at that time. Like, and part of that's from your brain's conditioning. It understands that when you're smiling and you're laughing, like we're feeling good, releasing good chemicals, like good hormones, we're feeling good. Like, and I think it's important to realize that that controlling your state is simply just getting your blood pumping, getting your body moving, and getting your thoughts and emotions under control. And when you do that, and like you take, because it's honestly like it should be a 10-minute process probably, like to start off if you're not really that good at it, but you're just wanting to like get going. Like 10 minutes is solid what I spend on it, because that's usually how long it takes me. You know, I'm already feeling good by 3 or 4 minutes in now, but I'm going through because I like it. I want to keep going. I want to get really motivated. And when you do that and you go through these kind of steps, it's just this hack that and like you said, it's not always consistent, but when it is there, it is very, very helpful. You know what I mean? Like it can even if it doesn't fully work, you've gotten yourself into a little bit of a better place and you get kind of some good results out of it. You've achieved doing that. You've gained motivation out of this. So it's you'll feel it when you achieve it, because you'll feel great. You'll feel that body motivation and that excitement and that readiness. Like, all right, let's go. You'll be feeling good and reared up and ready to go. So it's like, it's one of those things that you'll know if you haven't achieved it, because if you haven't achieved it, then you're not feeling it. And this is all sound psychology and physiology combined into ways to get yourself into a good state for producing quality and efficiency and being the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and this is all that. Look, we want to give you. We want to give you the solution. We want to give you there's different levels of problems, right? You could solve a problem at kind of the source, or you could solve it at, kind of the symptoms. And the one thing about state and motivation and really getting the energy that you want, right? The issue that a lot of people run into is that they need motivation like a hit, right? It's like a drug. You have to go get it from somewhere. You have to go find it from somewhere. But once you learn what actually creates motivation, once you learn what actually is making your motivation happen, you don't need to get it from anywhere. You make it. You can create it. You can generate it whenever you want, right? And so the thing to know about your own state, your own body, your own feelings, your own understanding of yourself is that when you want motivation, right? Motivation starts in the mind and the body, right? You're not getting it from anywhere, right? Even if you're watching this video now, right? Even if you're feeling energy, right? If you're getting like, man, this makes sense to me. Like I remember times when this has happened to me. I remember times when I was, hype and jazzed up, maybe you played baseball, or, you played basketball, or you played, some kind of sport, or you've been running, or, you've been in some kind of a club for, MMA or whatever it was, right? Playing chess, but you got excited about it. You got hype about it. You got energized. And then when you left that place, right, you're like, man, it is a great day today, right? You're hearing this from me. You're hearing this from us, but you're generating the feeling yourself because you're hearing it. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember this. So something's happening in your mind, something's happening in your body that's actually creating that experience again for you and waking you up into the motivation that you already have, right? So the thing to know, the thing to remember, the thing to notice is that you actually have full control over all of this yourself, right? You don't need to go anywhere or do anything. The only reason I would say to do that, and maybe you're just starting out, maybe you're kind of, in a place where you like these ideas, they make sense to you, right? But you're not really sure how to implement them in a specific way. Well, I would say you could push all this aside, right? Find things that you like, right? Do you like listening to a certain kind of music? Go listen to that kind of music, right? Really play it, really be with it, really be in it, right? Hear it, play it. You like a certain kind of movie, right? Video games, board games, hanging out with people, the things that automatically give you energy. Energy is beneath motivation, right? Your level of energy is actually what you're using to feed the motivation itself. When you're motivated, when you're hyped, when you're happy, when you're ready to move, right? The reason for that is because you feel good, right? So once you learn how to actually make yourself feel better, all kinds of doors open up for you.
Well, and I think it's important. One thing you said at the beginning there that I liked was it's something that comes from inside of you. People think like when you listen to a motivational speaker, that this motivational speaker is giving them motivation, and in semantics wise that might be true, but in another way, the feeling, the experience that you're feeling is all physiological. It's all psychological and physiological. That's all that's happening. They're procking emotions in you. They're procking things that are making you excited and feel like you can do things, and that's getting your heart rate up, and it's releasing adrenaline and dopamine, and you're getting excited and motivated, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do stuff, but that feeling, that excitement, that sensation, however you experience it, is you are manifesting that feeling more so. That person is flipping a switch in your physiology. in your psychology and getting you into a place that gets you that excited and gets you that energy. But that energy was formed by you, that's created by you in your own physiology. What I'm saying is these systems are set up to do these things. There's no limit to actually when you're allowed to access them. Like, no one made a rule that you can't just think about things that excite you, do some push-ups, get yourself thinking about stuff that's really gets you emotionally involved and, you know, passionate and into it, and get yourself motivated and going. There's no rules against that. That's just using what you know about human physiology. If you don't believe me, go look it up yourself. Go look up the neuroscience and go look up neuroplasticity. Go look up, you know, the physiology of the brain and the chemicals and the hormones that get released, because this isn't things I'm making up. This is common knowledge. This is psychological knowledge. This is used in marketing campaigns for hundreds and hundreds of years. These are known concepts. So why not use them? You know, why aren't you using them? Why isn't this something that's a daily process for you? And honestly, it's honestly just another tool. It's not like this is some huge, urgent, important thing that you have to do. But it's like if you had a tool that was out there, like my dad always had this thing. We used to work together on houses. We, you know, pretty much built a few houses together, and often we would be doing jobs that don't really have a specific tool for it. You know, you're not really like, it doesn't, it's a wrench and a ratchet and a monkey wrench. We're trying different, you know, vice grips. We're just trying different things because we don't know. And so we get to, you know, a tool and it just like pops right off. And we're like, okay, this is not the tool for the job. But if you had a tool and you knew you had a tool out in your garage that was just like, no matter, like, this could easily take care of this, like, why wouldn't you go use this? You know, why wouldn't I be using this tool that we have out here? You know, we'd come back in with the right tool and, you know, like cut right through it with something. We're just like, right, that's the tool for the job. You know, like it's that, and that's what this tool is. It's a tool for the job of inspiring you, motivating you, and getting you moving in times when you need it and you're feeling lazy and tired. You have to essentially, you ever heard the phrase, you build it and they will come? I think it was from a movie, maybe. I don't know, what in the Field of Dreams, maybe. But you build it and they will come. Well, the idea is that like your physiology and you being in a good state is just a certain set of variables. It's where your brain is, what your brain is thinking about, where your emotional state is at, and where your physiology is at in response to that. So if that's what gets you this sensation, and you have control over these three things, it's as simple as just taking the time to actually give the effort to do it. Turn on some motivational speaker and do this while that's going on. Turn on some music. It gets you jacked up. It gets your blood pumping. Usually it's like, what cheat codes do you have? Implement this process in ways that gets you excited. It's individual to each person because we're all individuals. I say it all the time because it's true. There's no practice that I can give you that's going to be like exactly what you end up doing. You're going to tweak it a little bit and change it, and the thoughts are going to be specific to you, and the way you do it, and the timing, or how you exercise, or how you get your emotion. All that's going to be individual to you. So it is something that's available to you because we all are humans and we all have this physiology and this ability to proc this state. If that ability is able to be procced by a motivational speaker, why can't it be procced by yourself?
Right, and I think the ability itself to have that. You mentioned tools, and you mentioned kind of working with your dad and all that kind of stuff. I feel like there's this misunderstanding with like your own mental toolkit. With the things that you learn, with the things that you understand. People think that this piece of information goes here, this one goes here, this one goes here, and they don't really interact with each other. But one of the things that's really funny about learning new things, right? Motivation, and let's say that this jives with you, right? Like you're like, yeah, like I could use this. I could put this to use. Like, let's just imagine you find the way that works for you. You can find the way that works for you to really generate those feelings on call, to really get the way that you want to feel, right? Bring that energy up, get yourself, hype, moving, going, ready. Well, you might think all of this is able to solve, right? You might think that this is only a screwdriver, right? All you can do is, stick it in and turn the knob, and nothing else can happen other than that. That's not the case, right? That's not the case. A screwdriver is also a fork, right? A screwdriver is also a knife, right? A screwdriver is also a way to get in your window, right? You see what I'm saying? The tools are not just used if you're creative. They're not just used for what they are supposed to be used for. Supposed to meaning what people tell you they're used for, right? If you learn how to motivate yourself, how to give yourself energy, how to change your own state, how to feel like, yes, I'm ready to take this on. What do you think would happen? Maybe you have issues with, self-worth, or, anxiety, or You just feel tired a lot, or these are separate issues. They're separate things, right? And maybe you need to go do some psychological work, or you think like, I need to go talk to this person, or I need to work this problem out, or I need to take this pill. And sometimes that's the case, right? Sometimes that's true. But sometimes all you really need is a burst. You need enough energy to get through that hour. You need enough energy to get through that 30 minutes. You need the bite, right? The teeth, the drive, the backbone to get through that, 2-hour seminar, or that session, or that school thing. So what if you had the toolkit, the ability to generate that on call? What doors would that open for you to solve other problems that are unrelated to that, right? See, people don't think big enough. They don't think wide enough. They don't think long-term enough. And one of the things that really changing the way that you interact with yourself does, right? Your own self-awareness, your own self-knowledge, it gives you so many different toolkits that problems become so insignificant. All that happens is you have to choose to win. You have to choose to move beyond the problem. And whatever tool you want to use, you can use it. You can do it however you want to do it, right? It just takes the amount of time. It takes the effort, right? So maybe where you're at now, you feel like you're starting in a place where it's like, oh, this is this hard thing. It's something you really get around. But it's not that complicated. It's not. It's very simple. It's you have a body, you have a mind, you have feelings. You need to learn what actually makes those things go up, what makes those things feel better, what puts you in a better state. And if you don't have anything, maybe you're the kind of person who thinks that there's nothing that does that and life is mundane and things are boring. That's not true. That's not true, because there are things that get you motivated, because otherwise, why would you get out of bed, right? If you get up in the morning and you're like, well, life sucks for me. And okay, then why do you go to work? Well, you're thinking it's because, well, I have to get paid. That's not what it is. You have to go deeper than that, right? It's because there's a fear of being on your own, or being poor, or being whatever. Those are motivational tools, right? You can use your ability to escape pain as a motivator, right? You can say, okay, like, I don't want to be in this situation anymore. This sucks. I don't like this, and get energy from that, right? So you can do this in so many different ways, but you have to learn how to open your mind and be creative about it.
Yeah, and I think getting fuel from things like that takes a conscious awareness of how you react to people and external things, where instead of maybe when your boss makes you mad, instead of all the reaction being oh man, I hate this job so much, it's so dumb, I don't even want to work here anyway. How about instead of those thoughts, you think, yeah, this is why I'm working so hard. This is why I'm pushing myself. This is why I want the things that I want. Those type of thoughts are way more productive, because it's just like, that'll just give you a little bit, and it's instant, like, yeah, this is why I want these things. And all of a sudden those bad chemicals kind of feel like they change to like, oh yeah, excitement. Cause yeah, it's motivation. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna go do things that I need to get done, because you've kind of changed the way you responded to things that would normally have a negative effect on your motivation.
Man, so we have hit probably just about every point on this, and if you've watched this far, you know what to do. You know the toolkit. You know the way, which is your feelings. It's to really get yourself more energy, change your state, look at your emotional state. Right? You can play with this stuff on your own. It's not complicated. It's very simple. Right? You don't have to look up a whole bunch of stuff. Just next time you watch a motivational video, right? Just pay attention to what's happening in you. Pay attention to what you're thinking for like a minute, and you'll say, oh, okay. So when I hear this person talking, or when I hear this sound, or when I'm listening to this song, I'm thinking about how cool I am, or how much I want to go do this thing. Well, why don't you just do that outside of that? Why don't you just say, okay, like, I'm going to do this now, or ask yourself some questions that might wake that up, right? So a lot of times it's just finding out how to export what you're getting from somewhere else, and keep it with your own self so you can use it when you want it.
I'd like to go further and say, if you're wanting to learn more specifics about state change, and you want to learn from it about the best, because this is just a toolkit that we're giving you for you in a subject that's vast, deep, and done in many different ways. So I would say go check out Tony Robbins. Just YouTube it, look up Tony Robbins state change, and you'd be amazed at how much you can learn about how much you can control your state. And he's just that's kind of his main thing. Tony Robbins is he's all about your state, and that's what he focuses on a lot of his videos. And you can learn a lot if you want to actually use something you're really interested in, you're just craving more information on it. That's another avenue that, I learned from as well as his mentor, Jim Rohn. So it's something that, really go check that out if you're interested in, and pay attention, like Greg was saying, to how you respond to those things, and, what you find to be true.
Yeah, man. No, I feel like we can close up shop. I mean, I would go ahead and summarize You want to maybe do the summary, and I'll go ahead and close this up afterwards.
Yeah, quick state change summary. Number one, choose. Number two, control your thoughts. Hyper focus on things that get you excited. And number three, emotions that are actually going to change your physiology into a good state, right? Number four is the kind of overkill of, do some push-ups, get yourself moving around, get your heart rate pumping, get yourself excited, shout a little bit, warrior cries, and, whatever you got to do to get your blood pumping, play that song that really gets your heart racing. And honestly, then go work because right after if you've done it right, you'll know. You'll feel it. You'll feel that. Yeah, I'm going, and then go to work because that's fuel, and you're full tank, and it's time to go. And get to the grind.
Yeah, and one thing I would say, because I know people are going to do this because I've done it. Don't worry about looking stupid. No one's watching you.
No one's watching you.
No one's watching you. Right?
They're watching us talk about this.
Right. It's like maybe you're in your room or, you're in your car. Like, who cares? Like, who's really there? No one is but you. So it's a choice between whether you want to see yourself looking a certain way or you want to feel good. I mean, that's really not even it's not even a decision, right? You want to feel better. You want the energy that you want. You want to move in the direction that you want. You want to get things done. Right. So just go do it. Just go do it and stay tuned. And stay tuned, of course, because we're going to continue to do this. We're going to keep putting stuff out, but hopefully these tools. No, and hopefully these are tools that you're able to really put into practice. I'm all about, and I think Dan is too, all about really giving you information that you can do stuff with, right? Like, it's cool to kind of sit around the table and talk about interesting things, but really there's a life that you want to live. Like, you want to go places, you want to do things, and maybe you just want to get something that's really close, but you don't have the energy to get it done. We've given you the tips today, so go take action now, and we'll see you soon.